morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to another week in our life. That was Shatner-esque. Anyway, we are going to take you on a magical verbal ride through the last week in our life. I just made that up. We started the week at Escapees Park Sierra. They call it Park Sierra. It's Park of the Sierra. But everywhere it says just Park Sierra. I don't get it. Anyway, it was a beautiful park. We were actually there several days last week. But whatever. We started the week there. It was a pretty park, but we didn't do a whole lot there. We had to go shopping. I got paid on Wednesday, the beginning of the week, so we had to go buy food because we were running out of food. And then we had a couple travel days in there. The next day we left and went to Yosemite, which we will get to in a moment.
Yes.
So we didn't do a whole lot there. And fortunately, you're going to find out that this week we didn't do a lot. We went, well, I won't spoil it. You already know, but I won't spoil it. On Thursday, we left Park Sierra to go to Yosemite Lake's Thousand Trails. And there's no good way to get there from, well, there is. Well, no, there's not. Okay, so there's a few ways to get there. You can go up 41, I believe is the highway, which right in front of the RV park. Goes right up into Yosemite Valley, and then you can turn around and come out on 120. There's tunnels. I've never been through those tunnels. They list their height restrictions as like 10 feet, but that's at the curb. Yeah. And we followed a
ginormous Tiffin
Allegro through there, and he had plenty of clearance.
He was fine.
And he was shying way over into the center, and sometimes driving, like straddling the center line there, but he had plenty of room. So we could have done it, but then we had to pay $30 since we're not towing. We had to pay $30 for either the motorhome or the Jeep, one or the other, because we do have the National Park Pass. But so there's 49, but that section of 49 is just a mess. 7-8% grades, twisty, windy, narrow. Not a good idea. So we took what Google suggested we do to get around that section of 49, rather than go through the park. Because like I said, I didn't want to chance those tunnels, not knowing what they were. Google took us down 30 miles, give or take, of twisty, bumpy, narrow roads. I mean, literally 10-foot lanes at times, no shoulder. Not no paved shoulder, no shoulder. Grass growing on the edge of the roadway. Bumpy, twisty. If you know what super elevations are, I'm a highway engineer, so I know. But I was a highway engineer. Super elevations is when they bank the curves. Sometimes they wouldn't bank them at all, even though you were going around a super tight curve. Sometimes they were what we would call adverse, banked the wrong way. The shoulders tend to do this while the center line does this. So the motorhome's constantly rocking back and forth, and then you get to a curve and it throws you the wrong way, and then you... Terrible. Terrible roads. I was at times pounding my fists on the steering wheel, screaming, because I'm like, this has to end, and we'd get to the next road. It was like a little U around there. Oh my gosh, horrible, horrible. Just kept going, and it would get worse. We finally get to Highway 132, which would take us up to 120 and within like 10 miles of our RV park. Much better road. Unfortunately, the first few miles of it were, there was a detour through another set of windy, bumpy, curvy roads through a residential neighborhood because the bridge was out. I don't know if it was on purpose or I think it was floods, but so the bridge was out. So, you know, I got my hopes up. Oh, thank God, we finally hit a nicer road. And no, we have to go to this residential neighborhood. So, at some point, I think, I don't remember where. At some point, I'm driving along, and we are on a better road for a little while, and here comes this woodpecker. Whew, smack! Right in the middle of the windshield of the motorhome. Killed the poor little thing. Luckily, did not crack the windshield. I mean, it hit right in the middle. Not on an edge. I mean, it's right smack dab in the middle. I mean, just a huge, loud, thunk. My nerves were already frayed. I swear, I'm not embarrassed to say it, I almost broke down crying. I was like, oh my God, I just killed a woodpecker. You know.
Sorry.
So.
It was a bad day.
So anyway.
It was a bad day.
On that detour, there was a narrow spot, trees, you know, and all the trees were cut, you know, high enough, you know. But we get to a narrow spot, and here comes this dump truck. And I tell you what, the semi trucks on these roads, they were going crazy. They would drive 50 miles an hour, you know, dragging their rear wheels off into the grass. And, you know, it was just like, so this dump truck's coming. And I slowed down, seeing the narrow spot, hoping he would do the same so we wouldn't meet at the narrow spot. No, he didn't care. We met at the narrow spot, despite my attempts not to. I had to swerve over because he was right on the center. I mean, dragging his wheels over the center line. And whack! Branch goes right down the side of the coach. Next, there's a turnout. I pull over. We get out. I'm inspecting it. I'm just, I mean, you know, there's probably 4-letter words involved. Anyway, it was a terrible, terrible drive.
It was. There's no damage to the coach, by the way.
No.
It did.
There might be some light scratches. I can't tell if they're dust.
Yeah.
They're up too high, and I don't feel like getting the ladder out to check. They're there, and you know, me looking at them isn't going to change.
No, and I mean, hopefully we'll be able to buff out whatever damage there did, but nothing drastic.
Yeah, it doesn't look like anything hit the roof, and we looked at the video and it looked like it scraped along the side, not along the roof. So I don't think there's any damage.
Because I just happened to be videoing, because it was such a bad road. I thought, you know, I'll just go ahead and video on and off all day, and I just happened to turn on the camera right before that happened. So
our 110-mile drive took 3.5 hours. Yeah. Now, in a motorhome, it would probably take over 2 hours.
Yeah. On
good roads, you know, maybe 2.25 hours to go 110 miles. You know, your car at 60 miles an hour, you can do it in 2 hours.
Yeah.
You know, and at 70 miles an hour, you can probably do it in an hour, 45 minutes or something. So, you know, 3.5 hours, and I was just frazzled. So, and it was a terrible drive. We'll never do that again. We have changed our rules, as you may have already seen on our Friday video. We're changing our rules. We're changing our GPS. You know, if nothing else, I'm going to vet the routes Google gives me. Anyway, that's enough of that. I had to get that. I just wanted to tell you how horrible that was. So then we went out, wound up at Yosemite Lake's Thousand Trails. Mm-hmm. It was a really nice park. Other than having no internet, it was a really nice park. It was under construction the day we got there. Mm-hmm. So we got one of the spots kind of out in the middle. And then I think the next day, and I'm not saying this to complain. I mean, they opened up the spots along the river, and they filled up within the next couple of days. They filled up really fast. Mm-hmm. We were actually in Yosemite the next day, so we weren't there even if we wanted to move. We were there for 4 nights. So. Yeah. But it was a really nice park. Nice lodge. The river's beautiful. Lots of trees.
Staff, super friendly.
I almost said there were turkeys. There were geese.
Yeah. They've done quite a few improvements, and they're doing even more improvements. So again, through the trend, Thousand Trails is really definitely putting money into their parks and investing.
And we have a impromptu half-assed review of that park and the park we're in that will drop on Monday, I believe. If not, next Monday. Internet and timing and whatever. On Friday and Saturday, as it turns out, because Glacier Point opened. The road up to Glacier Point opened on Saturday. Mm-hmm. So Friday we went to Yosemite National Park, and it was awesome. It was fantastic. You're going to see some fantastic B-roll that will not even come close to doing it justice. But
and the cool part is when we first got to Yosemite, we got there really early because we did what everybody says you should do. We got there super early. There was mist and clouds like all over the valley, and we were afraid we weren't even going to be able to see.
Yeah, at tunnel view.
At tunnel view. So we went up to tunnel view, and the sun started breaking through the clouds and the mist, and it was fantastic. I don't think the video is even going to remotely do it justice. I know my pictures didn't do it any justice. I mean, it's one of those places you have to go. Yeah. It's just absolutely fantastic.
Now, we will say a few things about Yosemite National Park. It was unlike any other national park. We have been to Redwoods, Lassen, Kings Canyon, Sequoia, and Joshua Tree so far, and Yosemite now. It was unlike others.
True.
To get around, you're taking shuttle buses. Mm-hmm. There's lots and lots of people. There's these massive dirt parking lots all over to accommodate all the people that drive in. After the day, compared to the other, I'm sure there are other national parks that are similar, for like Zion, for instance. But I would say Yosemite Park seemed more like a theme park like a Disneyland or a Magic Mountain or whatever, than it did a national park.
And that's
it's not like, oh, you in Yosemite Valley and it's just all nature. There's buildings and buses and cars and garbage trucks, and I mean
the nature is absolutely fantastic. So we're not saying that in that respect.
No.
But in the fact that they have so much organized transportation and restaurants and all of that, it's not as natural as some of the other parks we've been to. I mean, most of the other parks we went to literally were a road, and you'd pull off, and maybe there was a visitor center, and that was pretty much it. That's the whole extent. And this was not like that at all.
We're not saying that in a bad way necessarily. It's just it was more like a theme park. It was more regimented. It was like you go do this, and you take a bus, and you go do this, and you do this. You check off all the attractions on your list, and then you and then you leave. It was a little different. Not bad, but different.
Yeah.
The crowds weren't too bad. They got a pretty, I think they have more buses, more shuttles they can bring out. Mm-hmm. At one point, we took a long ride on a shuttle to get to where we wanted to go, standing.
Yeah.
Just packed to the gills. A lot of people, a lot of entitled people who are like, hey, I paid a lot of money to bring my family to Yosemite, and I'm going to break all the rules, and I'm going to get in your way, and I'm going to, and it's...
Actually,
courtesy went out the window as the afternoon went on.
There was like no place for us to stand on the bus, and we were standing by the doors, and it very specifically says not to lean against the doors because they swing out. And so I'm standing there as much as I can, and this man and this wife, instead of going in the entrance that they're supposed to, they go in the exit, and they are there. Well, the woman went up above, but the man stood between Dan and I with his big, huge backpack. And every 5 seconds he'd turn around and nail me with his backpack. And his wife said that she was sorry about 4 times to me. He never once said anything. Unfortunately, that is human nature. That, some people just don't pay attention to their surroundings at all. And he's obviously one of those people, so.
That's the nice way of putting it. People don't pay attention. Some people are jerks. Some people are entitled jerks who think that when they go to a place like Yosemite or Disneyland or the Smithsonian or whatever, that they're the only people there and they paid good money to be here, and their family or them or whatever are going to get the experience, and if that means pushing you out of the way, cutting in line, breaking rules, they'll do it. Yeah. And we did as the afternoon wore on, much like Disneyland. Mm-hmm. In the morning,
people are
pleasant experience.
Nice,
as the day wears on, people just stop caring about courtesy. Not all people, obviously, but some people, enough to sometimes taint whatever you're doing. And I wouldn't say it was tainted, but it was, and sometimes it was just bothersome to see people break rules, not show any courtesy for their fellow travelers, visitors. But the crowds weren't too bad. And I say that they were bad for a national park as far as I'm concerned, but knowing what it is supposed to be like in the summer,
I can't even imagine.
It wasn't too bad. No. If you're going to go to Yosemite, go in the shoulder seasons, especially the spring, because the waterfalls are running. When we were there, we saw that Glacier Point was going to open the next day on Saturday. And it's quite a drive to Glacier Point because you have to drive into the valley and then catch a road that goes back up and then you end up on top of the valley. But it's a long road to get up there, a long, windy, curvy road. It was super crowded up there. Apparently, we weren't the only ones who figured out it was opening on Saturday. So it's a windy, curvy road, to get up there. And when we got there, there was a line to get in the parking lot. Part of the reason was nobody wanted to chance passing up somebody who just went to their car to leave, so they would stop and wait. Mm-hmm. Even though right up on the next tier of the parking, as you would make the loop and go around, there was plenty of parking. Not plenty, but there was some parking where you just pull in. So we did the same thing, but it's because a couple of girls passed and they were like, oh, we're leaving, and waved at us, and we're like, oh, okay. So they got in, zipped out really quick, and we took their spot. So Glacier Point was pretty awesome, and it gives a whole different perspective to the park. So
it does.
I will label the montage that will follow is labeled the valley and Glacier Point, so you can kind of get the difference. Because sometimes, like when you're looking at Half Dome, you may not understand that one's from way up high and one's from way down low. But so anyway, that was Yosemite National Park. Fantastic place. And then we moved to where we're at right now, which is Ponderosa Resort. It is probably the most rustic of all of the parks, Thousand Trails parks we've been to.
It's the most campground-like.
Yeah.
That's what.
Yeah. Some spots are really close together, like where the sewer is. There's no sewer here, except for like maybe 15 spots or something. Yeah. But we're right on the river, which is why we're not outside, because we're on the river and it would make too much noise. But it's a nice little park. And then, you know, that we ended our week here. We actually ended our week yesterday going down and getting new phones because there was a Verizon store in Placerville, and we decided we needed them. So you saw that on Friday. So, but anyway, it was kind of an eventful yet uneventful week. We didn't do a whole lot except go to Yosemite for the 2 days. But
Yosemite was amazing.
Oh, yeah.
And honestly, that's really how I am going to take away from the week, is that we went to Yosemite. It was an amazing experience. Getting there was not very much fun, and leaving there was not very much fun, but going to Yosemite was fantastic. So.
Yep. So with that, we will let you take a look at all of our pretty pictures set to music. Actually, the videos. So enjoy.
Yeah, we said we let it go, but we settled for the last. Couldn't let you want it though. Who am I to let you down? No, who am I to let you down? If you let me walk away, maybe then we'd lose it all. No. Who am I to let you
So, hope you enjoyed that. I have no idea how it turned out because I haven't done it yet, but hopefully it turned out really awesome. So, to sum up our week, as I said, it was an eventful yet uneventful week. We didn't do a whole lot as far as, you know, going out and exploring and finding cool things to see and stuff. There was a lot of shopping and travel days and just hanging out and decompressing and whatever. But Yosemite really made the week, and that's, as you saw, that's, you know, we have a few shots of RV parks that we stayed in, but Yosemite is the bulk of what we did, and it was worth all the hassle to get there.
It really was. I mean, even though the travel day to get there was one of the worst days, or the worst day we've had in the coach, it was totally worth it. Yeah, Yosemite was fantastic.
When we left, there was one, I wouldn't say bad, there was one windy, steep section of 120. After that, we were on roads, you know, big, wide, you know, roads with shoulders and, you know, standard lanes and all that stuff. And then we hit the freeway and drove up, and you know, it was a much easier drive. And on purpose, we avoided the smaller roads on the advice of one of our fellow campers.
Yes.
Who lives in the Bay Area and goes back and forth all the time. So, but yeah, the whole, I mean, you know, the whole week it was geared towards getting here, and Yosemite was like, hey, we're in the neighborhood, we might as well stop at Yosemite, and I'm glad we did.
Oh my gosh, so glad we did. And like we said before, if you ever have a chance to go to Yosemite when the falls are running, oh my gosh, go do it. Absolutely amazing experience.
Yeah, the granite monoliths are amazing by themselves, but when you everywhere you look, there's another waterfall streaming down, a huge waterfall, some of the biggest waterfalls in the world. It's amazing. So you know, that was pretty much our week, was Yosemite. There's not a lot to sum up. Yosemite was pretty awesome, and the rest of it was a lot of travel and, you know, taking care of business, you know, getting phones, getting food, you know, so it was what it was. So before we leave you, we just want to remind everyone there will be no Wednesday videos for the next 2 weeks because we're in Tahoe, and we just have a ton of stuff to do. We talked about it in our Friday video. I want to talk about it again here, but we have a ton of stuff to do, and you know, we just decided we've got enough going on. We don't need to complicate it with editing and filming and so on and so forth. No Wednesday videos in the next 2 weeks, but we will come back with some B-roll from that, and then whatever we end up doing once we leave Tahoe.
Yeah. So as always, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you for all your positive comments, and we'll see you guys in a couple weeks.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Oh, by the way, I got a new hat. Actually, I got 2.